What's up, Facebook and the internet? Look, I created my backdrop to make me look like I'm Anderson Cooper. Dun dun dun, like I have something really important and official to say. Put on a jacket and pulled my hair back because it's election day 2020. Um, my cohort, Jackie Monahan, is a little bit late today because she's voting. She's voting. Um, So, guys, let's talk about today. This has been a very interesting day. There were rumors that there was going to be a bunch of tomfoolery at the polls if you voted live. I went live at 8 a.m. and I had no such tomfoolery except me lunging it out in front of my voting headquarters. I hope everybody executed their right to vote, especially women today. Just think about the women's suffrage movement. Come on, guys, get out there and vote. Unless, of course, you're voting for a racist and then stay home. Don't vote. So that's a controversial opinion. In fact, I said that the other day, as many of you guys know. I'm a supervisor at a Starbucks, and I saw a person who looked just like me, who came in with an I vote sticker that then went on a Trump supporting rant. Oh, my cohort's here. We are going to welcome her in. Hold collar.
Hi.
Jackie Monahan, we're already live. Can you see me? It's election day.
Yeah, sorry about my hair. I was just driving.
Don't even worry. So I just told everybody that we were live and you were voting, so you're late.
Yay! I'm late from voting. Let me put my sticker on.
Hold color. Hold color. You guys aren't even calling in. You're just on Facebook.
Keep calling.
Jackie, look at my official jacket on my election day.
Jacket and your background. I wish I knew how to do that. So
I'll teach you later, but
okay, for now we're here.
But your I voted thing on your forehead is excellent.
Today's the day.
So I was just talking to people about executing their right to vote and how important it is.
Yeah.
What is your position on all of this, beautiful human?
Oh my God, we have to vote. So many people went through so much for this wonderful, wonderful right, and we have to exercise it. Like you were exercising this morning. She was doing double.
I actually literally was exercising because I was lunging up to the voting booth. So
which is amazing. I was like, perfect. Yeah, exercising our right to vote is so important no matter what anybody says. Like,
unless you're voting for a racist. That's what I said right before you came on.
Oh yeah, that's true. Yeah. It's so important to vote, and it feels so good after.
So important.
Doesn't it feel so good? Like, I hate to get corny about it, but it feels so good to vote.
It makes me feel like I'm contributing to society. You know, today is my my niece's 25th birthday, and it's the first presidential election she's ever voted in.
Aww.
And like it was so cute, like chatting with her this morning and hearing like how liberating this experience is, and to be able to like it really feels like a participation in your adulthood and also being a civilian in this country, you know. And it's like I felt the same way. I feel like it's such an not I don't want to say easy, but it is an easy way to contribute to your society by like showing up and participating. And
for sure.
So I think it's super important that we vote. And okay, so I had this crazy conversation with my roommates last night that I feel like is important for us to talk about because a lot of people didn't know. I was having this discussion with one of my roommates who was like, well, I'm not going to vote today, but not because I don't want to vote, but because life has been crazy and I just moved and I'm not educated on any of the propositions and yada, yada, yada. And she was not aware that for the information that you're not educated on, you can leave that blank on the ballot. And I realized like that discussion hadn't happened, that a lot of people felt like I don't want to make an ignorant vote and like accidentally put like a Nazi in office because I didn't read the prop. You know what I mean? Like, so it was like this really interesting dialogue that opened up for me for the first time around the conversation of voting and elections. And a lot of people didn't know that you can leave items blank. Like it's not like a multiple choice test where like you have to put an answer in for every single answer. So I wanted to talk about that. Did you know that was a thing, that you like don't actually have to fill out the ballot? And if so, when did you know?
So I knew this year. I didn't know before this year that you could leave some blank. But I have friends that really study all this. So they told me, like, helped me educate me for all of them. So I knew where I stood on them. But yeah,
Which
it's
was great, which I think is awesome. Like my roommates and I planned a tutorial and like sat around for like 2.5 hours and just went over the props and discussed it. And like, so we set that time to like go through an education lesson because especially I think in a primary election, our default is just be like vote for president and,
right.
you
And
know,
that's okay too, as long as you vote for the president. Like just vote for the president if that's what you want. Like that's beautiful. It's beautiful to do
totally.
that.
And instead of like not voting, like there are people who are not voting because they think not that it's you should be educated about the propositions, but I also understand the importance of not making an ignorant vote. You
Right.
know, like
Exactly.
I've
So,
done some stupid shit
yeah.
out of lack of knowledge.
So just voting for the president is amazing, and you feel so good after. It feels like going to the gym 9,000 times.
It does feel like going to the gym, Les. I would love to hear your comments. Like, what do you got? How do you guys feel about that? About your position on, yay, Shayla. It is such a great thing to discuss. Shayna is, Shayna, I think I performed for you or your college recently, right? Am I getting the right person right? Or I think I hosted a bingo. I also am a game show host for a show called Pride Bingo through Neon Entertainment. For those of you who didn't know that I host a virtual bingo show. So thank you for being here. I do think this is important to discuss because I feel like all of these discussions around elections are just about going out and voting and who we're voting for and the controversy of the actual presidential candidates and not necessarily about the actual process of voting and making sure we know, because I had the same experience. I found out the last election by like default, same sort of thing where it's like no one hands you a ballot and there's like doesn't seem to be, unless I'm ignorant, there doesn't seem to be any education about like how to vote and that you don't have to fill out everything or how to fill out the ballot. You know what I mean? And I think I had some trepidation around it, which is why I voted live today. Like, I'm just saying that's my own baggage, but the mail-in vote and all of the crap that went down in 2016, like it was so important to me that my vote counted that I was like, I'm going live. Like, I don't care all of this noise about mailing in our ballots. Like, I can't. I'm going live on Tuesday. It needs to be a thing.
Right. So. Where I was like, I had already voted by mail in the mid election. That was my first time ever voting by mail. So hi Shayna. So,
Shayna, yeah, she was from Bingo.
Shayna Smith. We love you, Shayna Smith SS. So I had voted by mail before and I loved it. I loved the convenience of it. I loved being able to research everything. So I wanted to vote by mail again because also I didn't know if COVID was going to spike so much at this time. So I just like did it way ahead of time.
Yeah.
As soon as possible, I did it.
That makes sense. Like I understand why people did it and I don't have an opposition to it. It was just I was having my own insecurities about it. But I think that's the other beautiful thing about if this system does work is that people still get to make not only a decision about who we vote for, but how we vote, and I also saw at the polls this morning that they weren't verifying people's addresses, which I think is important too. I mean, I don't know. Some people have issues around this, but like, then the homeless can vote, if like you don't have to have an address. I'm pretty sure that the protocol in Los Angeles is that you do have to have an address, but
go some homeless.
But they weren't verifying the addresses at my polling place. So I don't know if that's like official protocol but I also feel like, I mean, crap, like the homeless are still citizens. Like, shouldn't they have a voice? Shouldn't they be able to elect who governs the country that they live in too? You know what I mean? Like, maybe that's a whole nother discussion to have, but I can't tell if that was just the polling person's like personal neglect of not verifying someone's address or if that was like the actual policy of the polling place. Do you know what I mean? Like, I don't know if that was actually a thing.
Do you think
I'm pretty sure in LA you have to have an address.
Did they verify your friend's address and then think that you had the same address and you were together? Or did you notice they weren't verifying anybody's, or was it just yours?
It was just the person. Yeah, it was just my roommate. So maybe it was because we were together and I said they were roommates and they just didn't question it.
But we can wrangle the homeless if we want.
Is that weird for me to say that we should wrangle the homeless? I just think every citizen should be able to vote. That's all.
I do too. Absolutely. 1,000,000%. Everybody vote. Exercise your rights to vote. What about what happened last year? What did you do last year? Like where were you? What happened?
Well, I voted in New York last year. I've been sort of weirdly transitional in the last 3 years. So I've also been I've lived in very liberal states, so it hasn't been this like impetus to like really change where I vote from, because I was in New York last year and then 2 years before I was in New Jersey. I've always been in very blue states, so for me that's important. Um, but like I have friends that are from like Alabama that live in California now, and I'd be like, yeah, I'm gonna move. I'm gonna mail in my ballot and make sure that I put in my Democratic vote in Alabama. So I understand that, but it's just I've lived in Massachusetts, New Jersey, New York, and California. So I kind of feel like I'll just go in live, and
I love
where I vote from.
Like, we have like the same places. I've lived in New Jersey too. I think we talked about this before.
Jersey girl.
I live in Connecticut too, and Rhode Island.
Oh yeah, I've never lived in Connecticut or Rhode Island, but I've definitely been 700 gazillion times since I'm a New Englander at heart.
Right. Yeah. And you lived in the Cape, and I did too.
I'm from the Cape, yeah. Born and raised, Sandwich, Massachusetts. Any other sandwich people in the house? All 5 of you. I'm still learning how to navigate this platform because I see the viewership, but then you can't see who's actually viewing until someone comments, and only Shayna is part of this conversation. By the way, when I hosted Bingo, Shayna was also the only person who was part of that conversation, so I appreciate you. It's so much more fun.
I bet Shayna voted.
And she won. Shayna, did you vote today? You don't have to tell us who you voted for, but you voted today, right? Or did you mail in your ballot? How did you vote? Oh, yeah, she was worried that it would void her ballot. So you voted live. She voted live.
Oh, that's great. Great job. Shayna, you're winning today, too.
You're winning today.
You are a winner. Yeah. So last time when I was shocked when the election went that way, and I was inconsolable, and I was not sober.
Oh.
So now I'm sober. Like, it's so fun to be like, I'm sober this election. But I was physically sober last election. I was dating somebody sober. And so we went away together to celebrate the first female president. And we didn't really watch everything. And then when we turned it on, I was like, and I was like, I need a drink. Like I was inconsolable and I needed a drink. But she was like, she helped me because she had the tools of sobriety to help me get back to a place. And then the next day I like just did so much spiritual work around it to get okay, because I was a mess. Like I was inconsolable.
Many of us were a mess.
I ran as far as I could and I fell on the ground and screamed at the top of my lungs.
I remember, actually, now that you say this, like it triggers my memory of where I was. I was in New York City and there were cross streets. I want to say in Brooklyn. I believe I want to say Cobble Hill in Brooklyn. And the cross streets are Clinton and I think it was Clinton and Kane were the actual cross streets. And I was standing at that cross and people were taking pictures at that cross street. Like this is about to go down and people were so excited. And so like, there was that shock of like, we then also felt like assholes because we're like standing at this like crossroads and yeah, it was very deflating. But you know what was beautiful about it for me? This is just my personal experience of that day. I remember seeing a Toni Morrison post about like the importance of making art right away to cope from this. And it's like, I'm not quoting it perfectly, but it was something to the effect of like the importance of us rallying through art and speaking about our pain through art is kind of the messaging I got from what that post was. And I went home that night and I wrote my Celebrity Apprentice in the White House Now song it's a parody of Buffalo Springfield's For What It's Worth. And it was the first like political parody I had ever written, and I wrote it in literally like 20 minutes from pure like pain and anxiety and angst. But it was the first time that I had felt like the power of art through the emergency of my pain, because I've written tons of comedy and art from my pain, but like pain that was processed. Like this was pain that was visceral and on the surface, and I felt it in my bones, and I wrote from that place. And it has a lot to do with my sobriety. Like I've learned that in my recovery, that like we get to make different decisions now, and we're not exempt from pain, and life is still going to show up, and we didn't get sober and then like we just get to have things our way. It's just we get to show up differently. And the fact that this was my new coping mechanism, and years before it would have been to go get wasted so that I could like hide in the messiness.
Yeah.
It felt important. And then I was like sort of on this performance rampage because I wanted to do it while it was still very visceral. And then I did my first like 1 hour show post-election in like February of that year, like right after he actually took office. And I got my first like public standing ovation, and my point in sharing this is it just came from such a pure place. And the other thing that was important for me is I wasn't attacking the other side. It doesn't matter. Like, I want to be careful about like attacking the other side, not because of my opinion about that. It's just, I need to stay in my lane. And I believe like Michelle Obama said it best, like our job is to just be better. Better, and so it's about me being better as a person and elevating myself. So like, I don't want to put my energy into like shit talking Trump supporters, like we talked about last week. Like I'd save a Trump supporter from a burning car, but then I'd be like, move on with your life. Like you're probably not going to fit vibrationally into my world, but like I'd still save you from a burning car. I just would. But so like, but what I forgot what my point was saying. Oh, but when I wrote that song, because I felt like it came from a recovery place. Am I steamrolling you?
No, go ahead.
I get so passionate. I don't know where to stop. My ex used to call me Constant Monologue, and I think it's really relevant because then my ex before that called me Constant Monologue, and all 5 of my siblings also have given me the same name.
Wait, we need to do a song called like Constant Craving, Constant Monologue.
Constant Monologue. And I'm like, wait a minute, 14 different people have called me Constant Monologue in different times of my life. Like, maybe I'm
pretty good. It's a compliment, right?
Sometimes it's a compliment. Well, we know that from recovery, right? Getting right-sized.
Yeah. Did I ever tell you my Toni Morrison story?
No, but please do.
I was complaining to my friend all about how I hated like cleaning, that I don't know, because I lived with a woman who cleaned, and I've always lived with people that did all the cleaning. And then I really wanted to live by myself, but I can't keep up with cleaning and work at the same time. Like, how do people do it? And my friend told me Toni Morrison quote that was like, women do everything and clean. And that she was like, this isn't a good thing. Like, we should be doing art instead of cleaning. Like, sometimes we should let, things go and put our art first. And the next day, my friend sent me a Zumba vacuum for my floor so that it could just do itself. And she put
the circle ones that like move around the floor by itself. Cool.
Got it. She put from Toni Morrison right while this is on. And the next day, Toni Morrison died. It was crazy. We were both like, what?
That's crazy cool story, though.
Yeah. But yeah, we all, as women, we've got to put art and our passion first.
We really do. Like, one of the ways that I feel like I connect with my higher power is by listening to Abraham Hicks. And like, one of the things that I love that Abraham says is that like, sometimes they get like slack because it's like, oh, well, you're teaching being selfish. Like, you shouldn't teach selfishness. Like, and she's like, no, we do teach selfishness. It has a bad connotation. Like, we teach self-centeredness, like self-space centeredness, like, it's that whole airplane scenario of like, you can't give your oxygen mask to the kid until you put it on yourself first.
Yeah.
Like, we're never truly an asset or of service to humanity in any way if we haven't like centered ourselves.
Yeah.
And so like, I've gotten that feedback too, that sometimes I'm not educated about what's happening in the world, or I'm too focused on my art or or myself, you know, and it's true, but a lot of times it's because I don't know how to be of service to the world. Even when I'm paying attention to stuff that's in the world, if I'm in a place where I'm depressed, I'm not taking it in, I'm processing it differently. I go into like vibrational attack mode where I'm like, it's like I'm not channeling the information right, or like, even when I was going through a space, like going through, this doesn't have to do with the election, but like when I was going through my insurance appeal for my spinal surgery, and I had so much shame about like my lack of education around like knowing that my insurance company could even do this, that I wasn't able to get into the solution and start like proactively making phone calls or like educating myself on how to fill out an insurance appeal and all the work that I needed to do around like putting my big girl panties on and being an adult. Like, I didn't know how to do that in that moment because I was very much in this place of victim consciousness, because I felt like I should be more educated about this. And like, what have I been doing for almost 40 years that I didn't know that insurance companies could reject claims, you know? But because of that, I was so clouded in shame that I had to spend the first week of my life just lifting that shame in order for me to show up to file the appeal, you know? And it's like, that's sort of like a little microcosm of why we sort of have to put self first. Like, yeah, we can barrel through. And there have been times where I've barreled through and I picked up the phone and I've made a customer service call, but I chew that person out and I'm like an asshole and now I've ruined their day. And then they go home to their wife and children like, this bitch yelled at me on the phone because I wasn't centered myself. So then I personally attacked her, and then she went home and yelled at her kids, and then her kid went to bed crying. And then, do you know what I'm saying? Like, we don't know what kind of spin it has when we don't check in with ourselves first.
Right. Yeah. It changes everything. Like I'm a big believer in one person in positive energy is more powerful than a million people who aren't.
That's what Abraham Hicks says. Yeah.
And that when you bring one person up, you bring everybody up. So, and brings one person down, you bring people down. So it's so important to it is interesting too, though, that like, because there's narcissists in our society. Like, should they be putting themselves first? Like, should President Trump be putting himself first? Like,
well,
no.
think about it. Like, years ago, whatever happened, at some point, this may be controversial to say, but at some point in this man's existence on the planet, he was innocent, you know, and something happened in his experience in life, you know, whether it was his upbringing or
Yeah.
having everything handed to him on a silver platter, where he didn't process certain things, and he didn't, there's a reason he sort of became a sociopath. Like, there's some type of deep trauma and wounding that created that didn't allow him to, you know,
Yeah.
like I feel like if somebody told him that he was beautiful and enough without money when he was like 2 years old, like, maybe he wouldn't be the fucking faux dictator he is
Yeah.
now. You know what I mean?
He definitely operates completely from fear, whether he knows
Mhm.
it or not. He doesn't truly love himself. Like, to have to put your name everywhere is nuts.
And even trying to like donate, like, another controversial topic. So, believe it or not, my crazy mom imparted this wisdom on me like many years ago when she was like, you can't not listen to the Republican side and like say that you're living in this echo chamber and like not ever listening to the other side. So I said, okay, I hear ya. I'm going to put the fucking Fox News feed on. I'm just to observe, so I don't stay in my echo chamber, because I do think it's sort of true, you know, that on both sides of the equation, we stay in our echo chambers and formulate our opinions from that space.
Right.
So I decided that I would pay attention and also get those text messages and those feeds from the Trump campaign too, where they're like donating, just because I wanted to kind of see what it looked like.
Good for you.
And it was painful sometimes to get the feed, but even the last couple of days when there was like that last pull for donations, like all of Trump's texts or outreach is like, why haven't you voted? Like, Do you know I've changed the economy? It's all attack. It's like, I will match your donation by 1,000%. It's all enticing people from money and greed. And then his son, Eric Trump, sends out another thing saying, like, if you donate today, we'll match it by 1,000%. And why haven't you helped us? Like, don't you realize Biden's about to ruin our country? And it's like fear, 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 fear. And then all of the texts like pining, that's not the right word, but asking for money, for their campaign for like Joe Biden and Kamala Harris. It's all like, this is election day. Like, let's make sure that every person's voice is heard and that discrimination and racism is like, not on the forefront of who governs. And like, it was just sharing a value system as opposed to, if you don't vote for me, you're horrible.
Heaven energy. That's great energy.
Yeah, the energy was just about like light, and it wasn't this pressure of,
I love it. I got chills.
There was none of that, like, you only have 1 minute to donate or our whole country falls apart.
Yeah.
Like,
coming from fear is the worst feeling ever. Life is all about not coming from fear and coming from ice cream. No, coming from, I just read it.
Coming from ice cream.
Coming from love. Coming from love.
Yay, Louise.
Listen, this is my first presidential election. I was actually sober for the last one, but not sober. I wasn't drinking, but now this is my first time to be sober. I didn't realize it until today. Like today.
That's awesome. It's a big deal, man. It's a big deal to like, and I think for me, when I got clean, like, my desire to show up for my life really shifted. Like, that whole thing of when I was in my active addiction, like I had to go do this and I had to go to work and I got to go to work and I got to do this and I got to vote and I got to be a citizen and I got to call my insurance company.
Yeah, we get to.
And then that whole shift when you get clean, it's like, I get to go vote. I get to go to work. I get to be a responsible, productive member of society. Like, I get to do these things. And like, I get to take responsibility for the space that I take up in the world. And that is incredibly important. Like, my whole perspective has changed on my why I show up.
Yeah.
You know? Not that I'm always like light and love and butterflies and rainbows. There are days where I'm just
I get to remember my sexual encounters.
I get to remember who I slept with.
Sorry, I had to slip that in.
That's funny.
I'm excited. I hope next time we talk on here, our next Never Normal, that Kamala,
we have a new president. But I also I want to say this because I'm not completely ignorant now since 2016 happened. Worst case scenario, if Trump gets another 4 years, do you want to go to Canada with me? I have a bus.
Yes. Let's marry.
The worst case scenarios, it is, we just got through 4 years. Like, it may have sucked and it like, but then it's like, that's all he's got left, man. That's all he's got left. And he's not going to have a legacy. Even if he gets another 4 years, like, it's not what I want, but like, he's not going to have a legacy. Like, there's no, you know what Trump is never going to have to worry about ever is future presidents plagiarizing his presidential speeches.
Yeah. That's really
it's never going to be a thing. This man will never have a legacy except being a horrible human. Yeah. And when I think about that, like, okay, if he gets another 4 years to dig more of a hole for him to live, leave this disgusting legacy, like, that's on him. Yeah. Like, who wants more FaceTime as the voice of hate? Like, that's what, if he gets another 4 years, like, he gets more FaceTime as like the person that no one likes. Like, why would you want more attention as like,
I mean, I can't imagine. Can you imagine living with yourself having voted for him?
I don't honestly don't know how people do it.
I don't understand, but I don't judge. How do you look at yourself in the mirror? But I don't judge.
But I don't judge. I don't know. I don't understand people's whys. Maybe that's a bigger discussion at some point, is like being able to have that conversation.
Yeah.
I don't know.
How do you look at your children?
Yeah.
I mean, I don't judge.
How do you raise your children?
Yeah.
Well, and we sort of have to wrap it up with this, and this may be a controversial ending, but to me, it's the epitome of privilege, because That's what privilege is. It's being able to have the luxury to overlook something that doesn't affect you. Like you can overlook racism. You can overlook that's
But we don't
exactly
want
what
to.
it is. Like
I don't want to overlook anything. I want
exactly. It's because we're a minority. We're queer. We're women.
Yeah.
We're you know what I mean? Like people don't want to be told what to do, and I'm going to vote for Trump because I can't. No, I'm going to exert my will. Like, sorry, that's a lot of white male straight energy. Like,
we're not
this coronavirus.
None of us has peace. We can't. I don't want peace until everybody has peace. Like I think
exactly that's what it's about. Like
I think
inclusion's not.
And I want I'm always and peace is always popping out, and I always want to be putting it back together. Like we know from program that being of service is the best thing on the planet.
It is. So let us end with that. Go be of service today. Hug somebody, love somebody. Even if they do have different views, love them anyways, because it's our job to be better, right?
And I hope next time we have a new president.
I do too. Jackie Monahan, I love you. Facebook Live.
We love you.
This has been fun today.
I love you.
I hope that's a sticker on your forehead and you didn't get "I voted" tattooed there. It's not a good
one. No, I got tattooed.
I love you, Jackie Monahan.
I love you so much.
Until next week. Dun, dun, dun. Happy Election Day, everybody.
Happy Election Day. We love you.
We love you.